Hi, everyone. Welcome to Prevention Education, the podcast that teaches you everything about prevention. Thanks for listening, and let's get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another podcast. I'm Kylie. I'm a prevention specialist for the prevention department at Preferred Family Healthcare, and I have Edward Mears here with me today. So, Edward, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Edward Mears. I am the Prevention Resource Center manager for the northern part of Missouri.
Yeah. So today what we're going to talk about is environmental strategies, right, Edward?
Yay.
Yay. Um, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not super knowledgeable about this area, so I'm very interested to learn more about it. How would you start talking about environmental strategies? Like, what's some stuff that is important to know about it?
The thing with environmental strategies, a lot of prevention people kind of steer away from them because they're a little more work. They're more in the public eye, but they also produce big results.
Okay.
So when people, if they get out there and do things with environmental strategies, they make a very lasting change that's fairly immediate. So I think people are intimidated by them, and hopefully we can make them not so intimidated.
Yeah. When you say that it's pretty much an immediate change, what do you mean by that? Like, what's an
Well,
example, I guess?
so one example of environmental strategies is to pass a local ordinance. So you get together with the leadership in your town, for example, you get something on your ballot and get them to pass an ordinance that says no one can go inside of a liquor store under the age of 21,
Okay.
or tobacco 21, which is a lot less relevant now that 21 is the legal age for smoking across the board. But before that, we had tobacco 21, and people would get that passed in their local area, and then you had to be 21 to purchase nicotine products.
Okay. That makes sense. So why, if it is so immediate, why would people shy away from it?
Well, because it's difficult to get out there to talk to those to your mayors and city councils. You kind of put yourself in the position of, hey, I'm fighting against these tobacco vendors or against these alcohol vendors, or and even in some places you'll have restaurants, that want to allow their patrons to smoke inside. They think that it will hurt their business if they don't do it. And so, if you're going out trying to make a policy that you can't smoke in any kind of restaurant, then those people might see you as their enemy. And especially in small communities, you live in a small town, you put that target on your back. Some people are just very intimidated by that, and so they don't want people to dislike them. Also, just the not feeling capable. They may think, I don't know enough about writing a policy or an ordinance or talking to these people. I'm not the guy for this, and so they would rather do something different. There are few out there though that just get right after it, and if they mess it up, they just keep on learning. They just keep going until they get it right.
Okay. Um, so you mentioned how it can be harder in smaller communities because you don't want the target on your back. Is it more individualized, or do you do this more as like a group of people?
It's much better to do it as a group, to talk to your to get allies in the community, get those businesses that are on board with what you're trying to do to come out with you. Unfortunately, a lot of times it does fall to that one person who's just not afraid to get out there and get in people's faces. But if there's a group of people, if you have your coalition with you, all the local retailers or the churches, or just as many allies as you can get on board, then it takes a little bit of that pressure off of the individual, which is really how it should be done.
Yeah. Um, when you say allies, what comes to my mind is stakeholders. Is that kind of what
Right.
you mean, is to get stakeholders in the community to back you up so you have a bigger
Exactly.
support? Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, and it doesn't, I mean, school staff, or like I said, the churches, the retailers, the police, just all those people that have a stake in your community and a stake in what you're trying to do. to get in there and help you. And, not to make it seem like that's the only thing you can do, creating laws, that's just one of the big things because
Yeah.
everyone has to stick to them. But there are other things you can do too. Education is another thing. You can do compliance checks. You go to get a training where you take a youth with you and they go in and try to purchase tobacco or alcohol or whatever it is you're trying to reduce. And then, find out if they're checking the ID or if they just sell it to the minor and stuff. For those kinds of things, you do have to have those stakeholders. You have to have a law enforcement officer with you. You have to have a youth. There are certain restrictions and stuff. But that's another thing that can be done. Being part of the city council or something that governs festivals. If you have a fair coming to town, making sure that there are rules over the sale of alcohol and things like that, or maybe the tobacco use. Maybe you find a way to make it where there's no tobacco use allowed, so you don't have people walking around smoking, throwing cigarette butts on the ground, secondhand smoke. That's another thing too.
Yeah. So, okay, so you talk to someone like a mayor or someone in your community, and then what are the steps after that? What's the progression?
Well, if you're going to pass an ordinance and stuff, a lot of times you have to have a ballot or you have to have votes from city council. It all depends on the community and how things are done there.
Okay.
But there is a process. The mayor doesn't just say, "Okay, I'm going to make it illegal." He has to make it an ordinance. Has to be open to the community so that people who are opposed to it can come out and state their arguments, things like that. And that's why it is important to get all those stakeholders and get those people to also speak and say this is not going to hurt business. It's going to help. It's going to make our community better. Things like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Are there any that prevention is currently working on, or any of the coalitions that we're working with?
I don't know of any currently off the top of my head, but I do know that we have worked with communities to pass Tobacco 21. We had a few do that before it became a federal law. And then we have coalitions that do compliance checks for alcohol and tobacco and things like that. One of the things that we try to do is just inform people. We try to get out there and let people know the dangers and risks of doing things. We're working on a sticker shock campaign right now where we're going to go to a distributor and put stickers on all the alcoholic beverages, stating that you have to be 21 to drink alcohol, things like that. So just kind of enhancing that knowledge and stuff, changing that physical environment, which is another environmental change. Going to the liquor stores and asking them to move stuff like candy bars away from the alcohol, or gas stations or grocery stores. Anything that a youth or someone under 21 would be looking for, move that away from the alcoholic beverages or away from the tobacco, things like that.
Yeah, that's something that not a lot of people think about, but it's a small thing that can make a huge difference. Because if for some reason, if there is a kid in the store, in a liquor store, because like mom or dad didn't want to leave them in a car, they're in there. So then they go to the candy and then there's alcohol right by it. And they're like, "Oh, what's that?" And and then they might see it at home and they might associate it with the candy bar and then think it's fine. So it's a really good point that I've never actually thought about. And I don't think many people do think about that, actually.
Yeah. Yep. There's a community, I want to say, I think it's somewhere in like Kansas or Arkansas. And it's a little small town I heard of. And in that town, the entire town's liquor licenses are owned by the church. The church, in order for you to move in and open a gas station with liquor or a restaurant and serve liquor or whatever, you have to go through the church. And so that was a huge change because it made it incredibly difficult. I believe that town has one place that you can purchase alcohol, and that's it, one little bitty place.
Really?
And yeah, the church owns all the rest of them. So I mean, that was a big deal too, that doing something like that. I mean, that's immediate change because there is no expansion of sales, so it is way less likely for youth to get a hold of alcohol.
Yeah.
The more retailers we have selling it, obviously the easier it is to get a hold of it.
Yeah. How does the church have the control of all of that? Like couldn't someone
I'm not entirely sure how they got the I really don't know what happened. It was something to do with that church, that town, and specifically, they owned them a long time ago. So
Oh,
it's very weird. I wish I had knew exactly how they managed that.
yeah. So it's not super common for that to happen, but it can happen.
No, that was the only time I've ever heard of that. But I just
Okay.
thought that's a really neat thing that happened.
Yeah.
Some other things too. Doing like if you could become a certified trainer as beverage server training, so educating all your local people, that the bartenders and things like that. Having them come and learn how to check IDs, how to spot minors, how to say no to minors, and things like that.
Yeah.
Those are another things that can be provided, and it's fairly easy to do.
Yeah. I actually used to work at a place where they did that. And we actually had a compliance check that was failed because with IDs, our people were not knowledgeable of like the um, vertical versus horizontal in certain states or like the colors of certain things. And so it's super
Mhm.
important to train your staff because if they don't know certain differences, then something that is so easy to recognize can just slide right past them. And
Right.
then the whole business is in trouble, and then the community hears about it, and then it kind
Yeah.
of just spirals.
Yep. And that's yet another thing too is making it where the failed compliance checks are put in like your local paper or
Yeah.
something like that. The businesses don't want people knowing that, and so they're going to be more likely to make their employees check and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
um, it is very important. So anything like that, just any where you are enhancing the barriers to use or increasing uh, the consequences for selling to you, things like that. I mean, just anything you can do like that is better. So
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, first, is there anything else that you would like the listeners to know about this topic?
I think it's just the one thing I said, that these kinds of changes, they're long term and they produce results very quickly.
Yeah.
Again, if you raise the legal age to something higher, then you automatically reduce the number of people who have access to it. So if you
Hmm.
reduce the number of retailers, you reduce access. So
Yeah. I think that's a fantastic point to end on. So thank you so much for joining us, Edward. And if you tuned in today, thank you so much for listening. And we hope that you can listen to some other of our podcasts. But thank you guys so much. We hope you have a wonderful day, and we will talk to you guys later. Bye, everyone.
bye.
If you listen to this whole podcast, we have a code word for you. So email the code word KEY, KEY, to moprevention. So that is moprevention at pfh.org, and let us know that you are entering for the podcast sweepstakes. And you guys are entered into just a basket of goodies from the prevention department. So be sure to send us that email. Thank you guys so much for listening. Have a great day. Thank you guys so much for tuning into our podcast. Remember to follow us on social media at PFH Prevention. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Spotify, and more podcasting platforms. And make sure to email us at moprevention@pfh.org with any questions, and feel free to call us at 660-627-7404. Thanks for joining us, and have a great day.